We look at Detroit in 2020 and we kind of look at where we need to go in the next 10 years, and the Detroit Regional Chamber just had kind of a State of the Region report come out. What are you seeing in terms of maybe specific policy initiatives or some different things we need to start to focus on to get Detroit in the region to the places that we want to be now in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, Christy, you have just crystallized the entire question that this conference is really focused on. We had this tremendous decade that just passed, right? Look at what's happened to the region and the state, it's been tremendous. How do we make that same kind of progress over the next decade? And I think we have to solve some fundamental problems. We have to solve a transit problem. We have to solve an education problem. We have to solve a opportunity for all problem, because we're seeing great success in some parts of our communities. Other parts of our communities, we haven't made the progress we need to make. So we have some fundamental challenges before us that we have to solve before we can have another great decade.
Okay, but those aren't easy challenges to solve, and it's going to take policy, it's going to take money. So where are we seeing in terms of funding, and where are we seeing in terms of threshold for pain for policymakers in Lansing to be able to start to change things?
Well, first of all, it's news to me that it's going to be hard. I was hoping we could solve these things by next Tuesday, but okay,
I like
fine.
to point those things out.
So, number one is that communities and regions need to look within themselves first and start solving the problems they can internally. One of the things that we can do here in the Detroit region is start solving this transit problem. We can do a better job of making our communities more welcoming, more friendly to millennials and people from outside the region to move in here. Those are things that we can do internally. Yes, we need to look to Lansing. In some cases, we need to even look to Washington, D.C., but let's start where we have an impact first before we start looking to others to help us.
All right, so let's talk about education though, which is another specific, I think, policy challenge that we have in terms of what kind of funding, how we break up that funding for different districts, and what we're concentrating on as a whole in education. Where do you see some of the change that needs to be made?
So there's a couple things. Of course, there's a statewide coalition called Launch Michigan, which I'm proud to serve on the steering committee for. And one of the fundamental things that we have said at the outset is that we need to ensure that there's not equal funding, but equity funding. And that really acknowledges that different students coming from different backgrounds in different places need a different level of funding. Because a student coming out of my school district in Grosse Pointe has a different set of advantages and has a different set of needs than someone coming out of another neighborhood. And until we fix that disparity gap, we're still going to have a social mobility problem, because we need people who are in underserved communities, those children, to have the same opportunities of students coming out of a wealthier district.
So it seems like that same drumbeat of education, because what are companies telling you when they're looking at Michigan, or specifically Southeast Michigan, to either invest in, to move a company to?
Yeah.
Is that still a sticking point in terms of what our education averages are, test scores, or the amount of people that have a college education or that talent and workforce that's available here?
Yeah, so what businesses are telling us that there's a war for talent, and talent won, right? Companies are losing the battle for talent every day. And it doesn't matter what kind of business. They're losing the war for talent because the available talent pool, people with the right 4-year degree or the right 2-year associate's degree or the right skilled certificate, right? You don't have to have a 4-year degree to be successful today and tomorrow, but you need some sort of advanced training, and that needs to continue. Companies don't have the pool out there to draw from. And the region with the best talent is going to win this war. Because if our companies don't have the access to talent that they need to succeed today and tomorrow, they're going to start moving operations to other parts of the country or the world that have that talent base.
All right, well, we can't wait to see what's next, and we'll see you up at Mackinac, of course, Sandy.
Great, thanks, Christy.
Thanks.